me going to jail was probably the best thing that ever happened to me in my life. And the reason why I say that is because growing up where I grew up, I grew up middle class. My parents went to school, graduated. You could say that I was brought up in a home where people kind of taught me the right things, but I went to a school that was, where I'm from, Prince George's County, Maryland. If you go to school there and you're not in a private school, you're basically going to go to a bad school. And when you go to a bad school, it's like the decisions you make determine, what you'll be and where you'll be. I went to a bad school. I didn't get good grades, so I hung out with other people that didn't get good grades. The thing was, when I went to jail, I had perspective, something that a lot of people don't have, or multiple perspectives. My perspective was growing up middle class, my parents went to school, all of that, and then I also knew how I was in the streets and some of my friends that I hung out with, how they grew up. So when I went to jail, I knew what right from wrong was, So with me, the first time I went, I was able to kind of transition and turn that into something that made me want to actually succeed in life and go down a positive path. Whereas most people that go to jail, they only have one perspective. And when they have one perspective, it usually ends up becoming something where, it's a cycle. They kind of go back, you know what I mean? So for me, it really shaped the way that I saw the world and I saw my future. I needed that in order to kind of have some type of reality check, because I wasn't living in reality. A lot of people go there and again, it's just a cycle. And that's because they have only one perspective. They only have one way of living and understanding how to live and how to make money. You know what I mean? Yeah.
So I guess off of that, how did you get started doing art and music?
All right, so let me break this down. I went to jail. I got in trouble once, but I went to jail 3 times. You get me? So the first time I went to jail, I learned my lesson. I got out. I just wanted a job. I remember, I was going so hard to get a job. I had a job working at McDonald's, and it was a 2-3 hour commute every day to go there to get paid nothing. And I felt proud to put on that tie and go in there and make fries. You know how hard making fries is? Seriously, next time you go to McDonald's or any restaurant, whoever's making the fries, you gotta have a lot of respect for that person, because that's not an easy job. I was doing that because I just wanted to prove that I could be somebody and something and not go back to jail and get in trouble. The reason why I went back to jail is because I didn't have enough money to pay my home detention, which was $300 a month. I was in school trying to do that. I had a job working there. I didn't make a lot of money. And the thing was, I got sentenced to 15 years, but they suspended it to 3. And they made me do the 3 on home detention, but it wasn't state home detention, which, the state pays for. It was private home detention, which I have to pay for. I violated probably 2 years later on my last year. And then I ended up having to basically I went to jail for 2 months. I got out. My lawyer couldn't get me out. He told me that, I violated, so I couldn't get a bail. I was on the phone with the clerk's office every single day, telling them I'm in school, I'm trying to get my life together. I didn't get in trouble again. It was just a violation. Can I have a bail? I ended up getting a bail without my lawyer. I got out for 2 months, and when I went to court, the judge was like, yo, we gave you home detention, we gave you a slap on the wrist, you're just gonna have to do the rest of your time in jail. So that's why I went to jail 3 times. But I never got in trouble again, you know what I mean? It was literally the same thing that followed me from the age of 17 to 19 is when I went to jail. I turned 20 in jail the last time. But the great part about that last time is they sent me to state prison. So I wasn't in county jail, I was in state prison. Meaning I'm in prison with people who have life, people who have been in there for 20 years, all types of different people. That was when I learned to make music. I used to help people get their GEDs. I was a tutor. I was a barber. And in my spare time, I would listen to the radio and memorize beats. And I would write to those beats in my notebook. And I remember some of my students, they would look at me and be like, yo, I didn't know you rap, like, spit something. Like, everybody would always ask me that. And I was just like, downplaying it, like, nah, I'm not that good. I was shy. I didn't think it was really that good. I was just doing it because it was fun. I remember I did that for about maybe a week. They harassed me for like a week. And then one day I was like, all right, look, man, every time they see me, they're going to ask me, so let me just try it out. And I did it, and everyone really actually liked it. And on top of that, everybody wanted me to continue to do it, and that's where I gained my confidence. And when I was there, I said, when I get out, I'm going to go back to school and try to, just live a normal life, but I'm going to try to make a mixtape and see where it takes me. And, here we are today. Yeah.
That's amazing. So it's clear from your recent album, Is He Real, which came out recently. Yeah. Great album, you should stream it. It's clear that your personal experiences have really informed your artistry. So I think a lot of us here have a lot of our own personal struggles with family, with mental health, and it's really hard to find a way to not let those kind of disenchant us. And I know on your track, Julia, on your recent album, you talk a lot about your mother and her passing, and you channel a lot of that into your art. How can we here find ways to take these like hard personal experiences and channel them into productive energy rather than like falling apart?
One of the things I've learned, see, not everyone is able to make music and express themselves through it. Not everybody's able to articulate themselves through music, so I can't use my example. But one thing I have learned is with life, there's always going to be a time where things aren't good, always, for the rest of your life. And one thing I learned to do is just kind of brace myself for the bad times that may come, and know that the sooner I learn to accept these bad times and let them pass, the easier it'll be every time they come back, because they'll always come back. There's always going to be something that you can't control that'll happen. It could be a small thing, it could be a really big thing. Let's say everything is going wrong today. I'll remember that there's still tomorrow, you know what I mean? Like, I'll remember that, okay, this is the problem, this is what we're dealing with. Let me hurry up and get through these things. Let me find solutions to these problems. And then, eventually everything will be good. And then eventually it'll come back again. And you just got to deal with it, you know what I mean? So I think bracing yourself for the downs is the most important thing. And knowing that they're going to come and expecting them to come. You never know when, but just being prepared for them.
So on your album, you talk a lot about religion, and you question it and you analyze it. And I read that a lot of your understanding of religion stemmed from your time away incarcerated. So how did you get into religion, and how do you think about it, and how did it influence the creation of this most recent project?
Wow. So with religion, nah, that's a good question. It just made me, I got something to say about that for sure. I remember the first time I ever had any type of encounter or understanding of religion, I think I was like 3 or 4 years old. And my aunt was telling me, she was like, all right, there's heaven and there's hell. If you're bad, you go to hell. And hell is bad and it's hot and all this stuff, and you don't want to be there. If you're good, you go to heaven. And heaven has all the candy and toys and blah, 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 all this stuff. That's literally the first thing I can remember. And even then I had questions in my mind. But from there, it was like, kind of like, my parents, Christian, going to church with them, not really fully understanding why, but I know it's a good thing. You know what I mean? That's kind of like, that was like my experience with religion pretty much my whole life. I just remember one really bad experience where I was supposed to go to church one day, and I went to church, and it was me and my mom, and I think my grandmother. I went to church, I sat down, and, church is usually like an hour long. I don't remember how old I was, but I remember I couldn't really fully understand like what time was and, an hour and none of that. But I just remember being there, and maybe an hour passed by, and I'm still there, and it's whatever, it's boring, whatever, just waiting for it to go. Then maybe 2 hours passes by. Then maybe 3 hours passes by, and I'm starting to get hungry. And I'm like, okay, what's going on? Like, I'm trying to get out of here, you know what I'm saying? And then 4 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours, and I didn't realize it. We were fasting for 24 hours. And I'm like, I don't know how old I am, but I just know this is the worst experience that I could ever, and maybe not ever want to go back to church again. Yep. So it was always this dynamic of that thing that stained my mind and memories. And then it was but I want to go to heaven because I want to be good and I don't want to burn in hell, things like that, and candy and toys and shit. So I'm like, it was always this conflicting thing that I always used to question. And I would question it the most when I wanted to do things that they said was bad. You know what I mean? When I went to jail, I got really in touch with spirituality. It was like nothing the first time I went to jail. There's not really much you could do, you know what I mean? And I started reading the Bible and just having my understandings. And you go through that thing where you're like, God, if you get me out of here, I promise you I'll never do this, and all that. I mean, look, let's just say I got out, and maybe about 2 months later, I was back on my shit. Like, not like illegal shit, but just normal bad shit. You know what I mean? and so, it was always this back and forth, like believing in God when I needed God, and then not believing in it when I wanted to have fun. And I think even to this day, it's like somewhat of a conflict. You know what I mean? I believe in spirituality. I do believe in the fact that there is a higher power. I think the word God confuses a lot of people. I think when you say God, you think of some man with a long beard or something like that. I think that there's definitely something that created this world that's too perfectly engineered. Everything works so perfectly together. There's no way that this just came out of thin air. I think God is basically the most ingenious engineer in the universe. He created the universe, so I don't even know what's after the universe, but whatever that is, that's what God is to me. I believe that God put me on this earth and gave me a gift to be able to speak for people. I have a rare ability to articulate myself in a way where people can listen and enjoy it. So I feel like, with all the blessings that I have, I live a comfortable life, and I'm continuing to grow, and I'm pretty much able to do whatever I want to do. My job is amazing. I'm happy every day. I feel like because I was blessed with that, I do have a responsibility in my music to say things that matter. I don't think that I'm here to just capitalize off of this and just be happy and not really be able to give back somehow. My name IDK stands for ignorantly delivering knowledge. The only way people will listen. It's like I can't have that type of name and just make music just to make money. You know what I mean? So yeah, I definitely believe I have some type of responsibility now. There are a lot of artists that don't know how to articulate some of these things and are popular, and I'm not gonna sit here and say that they're wrong. They can do whatever they choose to do. I just know for me, I do believe that I have some type of responsibility for sure.
So I guess in keeping with that sort of feeling that you have, what kinds of artists influence you, and what artists are doing that kind of thing that you want to evoke?
There's so many artists that I like, man, and it's funny because I really don't listen to rap like that. Sometimes I do. Even though I rap, it's not too much that really inspires me in there, But I obviously like the obvious, like Kendrick Lamar, the J. Cole's, Drake's. A lot of people don't like Drake. I think Drake is a genius. Who else? Outside of rap, I love Hiatus Coyote. That's
She's
my
fire.
favorite. Like I love them. Yeah. Um, I like Fela Kuti. Like I've been digging into a lot of that, and because of Fela, obviously by default, I really fuck with Burna Boy. You know, I like Tyler. Probably my favorite. I think the greatest artist of this generation to me is Frank Ocean. I like Frank Ocean a lot. I mean, there's so many different things. I've been listening to a lot of bossa nova music. It's just so much different stuff that I like, but that's a few for sure.
So I guess to hop on that question, if you could collab with any artist or any artists, plural, who would it be?
Yeah. Man, I don't want to give too much information. Let's say I want to work with the Gorillas. I like the Gorillas a lot. Yeah. That's like one of my favorite bands of all time for sure. Yeah.
So speaking about collaborations, you opened up for Isaiah Rashad in 2017 on his tour.
Yeah.
What was that like? What's he like? What's that experience like opening up for an artist?
Zay is that's like one of my really close friends in this rap game, Opening up for him, honestly, I probably got the most fans out of any tour that I've ever done from that tour. It was like probably the perfect combination, and even now we're still talking about doing more stuff. So, stay tuned for that. I don't know where that'll go for sure, but, that's like he's one of those people that, regardless of music or anything, I would always still be cool with him. You know what I mean? Yeah. He's just a good dude that I really respect how he moves.
So yeah, I mean, in terms of opening up for an artist, was there ever any difficulties that you faced, like showing up to an audience that maybe wasn't there for you or wasn't there?
Man, it's funny. Isaiah Rashad's tour, we were in Miami, and we'd done like a few shows already, but for some reason this Miami crowd was not trying to move. They were like not showing me love. But the most important thing when you do, especially rap music, and perform, is having confidence. So no matter what, like I knew that I was good. I know that they're not moving because I'm not good. It's because probably they don't know who I am and they're waiting for Zay. So I stopped the whole show. I spit on acapella. I put my heart into it and I let them know like, yo, yeah, y'all gonna fuck with me. And then I did another song, and that next song, they broke the whole barrier. Like, it was crazy. Yeah, like the whole barrier broke. And I'll always remember that show because I remember I use that as an example. Every time I do a show where I'm opening up and they may not know me, it's about just going in there with that confidence. And also being good. Like, you got to be good, too. You know what I'm saying? Like, but being good and having that confidence is where you win with that type of situation. Yeah.
So one of my favorite tracks on the album is December.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of sampling. I think it's definitely had a huge resurgence in the past year or so.
Mm-hmm.
What's that process like for you to identify a song that you want to incorporate? I know that there's some Jasmine Sullivan samples, there's some Lil Wayne samples, Murder, She Wrote.
Mm-hmm. The way I look at samples, it's almost like a cheat code a little bit, because it's like you take someone's composition and you manipulate it and then use, whatever you do whatever you do to it and then make music with it and use it again. A lot of the time, what separates music genres is the way the drums are structured. So good music is good music, but some people might prefer rap music to rock because of the way it just feels and the way they, the drums move or whatever. You know what I mean? When you sample, even if it's from a rock song or whatever, if it's like a classic song that's proven to have worked, it's like kind of like using the same instruments in a sense and just changing the drums around and doing something. I love sampling. I'm trying not to do it too much because it's expensive. You know what I'm saying? But every now and then it's like you'll get something and you just kind of just got to let the music speak and don't worry about all of that. You know what I mean? Yeah.
So as a rapper on the rise and as someone who has spoken a lot about your very particular identity at
Yeah.
the musician.
Uh-huh.
Have you found struggles with sort of balancing the industry versus your artistry and the pressures to maybe create a commercial album versus what you actually want to do?
I think every artist that is trying to be a quote unquote superstar is always, whether they say it or not, is always going to struggle with that to some extent. I'm in a place in my life right now where, again, you know, I'm pretty comfortable and I'm only growing. You know, the music is what I focus on, making sure that it's better, and usually that kind of dictates where I go on the next album. And again, it's just been going up. So I like to understand what's going on, and then I like to put my twist on whatever that is. And then I like to end with saying something or putting something in it or having a message behind it that matters. At the end of the day, I look at it like this. If I can get more people to pay attention to my music, I have more people that can hear something that they may need to hear. You know what I'm saying? So I don't like to be out of touch with what's quote unquote popular, but I really don't like pop like music. Like I don't like too commercial, bubbly feeling. I'm not into that. You know what I'm saying? So to an extent, I'll never really be like that. But I do understand, like, you know, sometimes, man, like a trap beat in the club, that's what you want to hear. You don't want to hear like some super conscious rapping. Like, you know, sometimes I learned like recently, probably in the past 2 years, I don't really rap. I mean, sometimes I'll rap fast, but I really don't like to do that. Like I can, but I like to slow it down. I like to say things that people can repeat. You know what I'm saying? I like having quotables. You know what I mean? And that's kind of like can be considered commercial to an extent, but I think I do it in a way where it's balanced and it's not. It doesn't seem like I'm compromising the art at all. And I think that's what it boils down to, not being compromising to what really matters. Yeah.
Cool. So earlier you mentioned your name, IDK, stands for Ignorantly Delivering Knowledge.
Yes.
How did you get that name? It's a fire.
I was in jail.
How'd you come to it?
I was in jail, and I was like, man, I want my name to be something that when you look at it, you're like, what? Like, what does this mean? Like, I want to know more. So I was like, I'm going to name myself IDK. It's like, I don't know. That's what people are going to think, you know? I named myself IDK. It used to be JIDK. J was my original. Well, J is my actual name, Jason. And I put IDK behind it. And I was like, yo, if I'm going to do this, what describes me? What kind of acronym? And I thought about it, and I'm like, ignorantly delivering knowledge. My whole life is like a paradox. It's like growing up middle class, going to jail. I'm the first person in my family to go to jail. You know what I mean? I used to sell sneakers, cars. I used to do tattoos in high school in class while the teacher was teaching. I was a barber.
Like real tattoos?
Tattoos. I was a barber. I was a mechanic. Like, dead ass. Like, I did so many different things. Like, it's a bunch of things that don't make sense together, but when you put it together with me, it does. And that's why ignorantly delivering knowledge was perfect.
So you mentioned this like really unique upbringing and like experiences that have built you. So I know that you were born in London.
Yeah,
grew up
that
in
too.
Maryland.
That's
So,
another
like,
one.
how did the places that you claim home like come into your music and your art and just
Yeah. That's another thing. It's like I was born in London. I came to America when I was 2. My mom is from Sierra Leone. My dad is from Ghana. Like, there's all these different dynamics that make up who I am. You feel me? I probably wouldn't respect Fela Kuti if I wasn't the way I do if I wasn't African. You know what I mean? I probably wouldn't think to get into it. You know what I mean? So that has a lot to do with that. Where I'm from, PG County, you know, you can see a lot of that in my music if you're from there. From the way that I may say certain words to certain drum patterns that I might choose to rap over. You know what I mean? Then we have like me being from London. It's like I don't want to say, because I didn't spend a lot of time there, but I do know like some of y'all may know a song I have. It's called Pizza Shop. It was on I Was Very Bad. I wrote that when I was in London. You know what I mean? And there was like a certain vibe, you know, to it that made me feel like I was at home, even though I didn't grow up there. You know what I'm saying? So I think like a lot of those dynamics come together in my music for sure. And sometimes it's subconscious. Sometimes I don't really notice it. You know what I mean? That happens like all the time. Yeah.
So going off of that, what's your favorite song that you ever made, if you have one?
It's like stuff that I'm making right now. Yeah.
That's good.
We had like a 7-hour drive, and like everybody in the car was probably like, "What the fuck?" Because it's like it'd be like the same song on repeat like for like the first 2 hours. Then it's like the next 2 hours is like another joint, and then I'm going back and forth like. So I think some of the best music that I've been making is the stuff that I'm making now. And I mean, I know everyone kind of says that, but it's true because like, I've been developing and I've been learning new tricks and I've been finding things that speak to me in a better way, so.
So where do you see yourself in 5 years? Like, what does success look like for you in the future?
Well, I could speak on even further than 5 years. I feel like when I'm 35 years old, my goal is to be able to do what I'm doing with music, but in the film space. I'm really interested in film. I think I write a lot of my albums and music almost like films. I kind of like having stories and things like that. So that's something I want to do eventually. I'll never stop doing music. I'll probably be still doing music simultaneously. I'm into a lot of different things business-wise. Like, I'm a part owner of a gym and a boxing program in LA right now. I don't know if I should say this yet. I'm not gonna say this one yet. Cause it gotta I gotta do it first. Like it's on camera and shit. You know what I mean? Like
I get it.
there's another thing that I'm doing that's gonna be really great that I think it's gonna surprise a lot of people. Man, there's just so many different things I want to get into. So many different things. And you'll see a lot of them this year, for sure. Like you'll see the start of them this year. Yeah.
And then I guess for the people here in the audience who are creatives or singers or want to be in the music industry,
Yeah.
like any advice for us because we're all lost and
Ooh.
confused.
All right, music. People don't want to hear this. People think like it's way more difficult and complicated than this. But with music, it took me a while to figure this out, but it's so simple. With music, it all, like marketing, all that stuff, yeah, that's cool. But one of the most important things is originality and actually being good. If you focus on being original and delivering a product that people can't get anywhere else and it's actually good, it'll sell itself. You can do other things to make it bigger, but it just sells itself. It's pretty simple. You know what I mean? People who like something, they consume it, and it grows. Some stuff faster than others, but it's really about focusing on being original, whether it's the story you're telling, the way you're telling it, how you're delivering it, the beat choice, the sounds, and making sure that they're at the highest level of quality you can make them. And I don't mean like you have to be at the most state-of-the-art studio. I just mean like the quality of music has to be really good. You know what I mean? And if you take the time to do those things, you'll find a group of people that'll fuck with you, and that group of people will turn into millions of people one day. And I think that's the most important thing. All the marketing stuff, that's great, but it's like you need a product and a brand identity. That's the most important. I was reading a book, the 22 Immutable Laws of Branding, and it says how marketing is like not even important. It's about branding. It's about creating a brand that people like, people that are like-minded can attach themselves to, and then you put marketing on top of that. But if you have no brand, you have no foundation. You know what I mean? So. And
then one last question. This is mostly for me, but
yeah.
I'd love to hear a lot about the song "Porno" on the album. And I say that because
that's the one you want to talk about right now at Harvard.
Here we are. Why not? I just think lyrically it's so brilliant and so layered, and I just love to hear about what got you there and what were you thinking about?
Are you sure you want to?
I listened to it and I'm just thinking constantly. So I want to hear about it.
Porno. I heard the beat. Rascal sent me the beat. And the first thing I said when I heard the beat, it was like Pusha T. I didn't even write nothing yet. I just heard Pusha T like immediately. And then I knew that beat was special. It was just so good. So I sat on it for a little while. I didn't write to it right away. And then I was in LA. I think I was like looking at bikes or something like that. And I went to go get a bike. I didn't end up getting it. It was like mad expensive. I'm like, yo, I don't need this bike. So I went to the car and I put on the beat and I just felt like I wanted to write it right there. So I wrote the first verse. And I knew what I wanted to talk about. It was a subject in the album that a lot of people don't really touch on, and it's about like how you got into sex, porn, things like that. Like, and I dug into like the fact that it was like something I was exposed to at the age of 4. You know what I mean? Like really young, and maybe that's the reason why I think of these things that I'm thinking of. So I wrote all of those things that I thought of down. And I was just trying to be as clever with the bars as possible. You know what I mean? Then it was like, okay, I got this song. I sent it to Push. Push immediately was like, I'm on it. And he sent me the verse back. And then I was originally going to get Tyler to do it. And it's funny because he came to my house to, I don't know if he came to do it. I don't know. But he came to the crib. And I played it for him. He's like, man, I really want to get on. It was like... Igor had just came out and he was like crazy. Like he had to go like, it was the day they announced Flogna. He was there at the crib and it was just like, yo, all right, let me see what I could do. And it just didn't meet the deadline. So we weren't able to get it. But Jid had already sent his verse and he killed it. So we had his joint on there. And that's how the whole thing kind of came together. Yeah.
So I think that we have some time for some Q&A. So if anyone has questions.
Yeah. What's up?
What's going on? Yo, my name's Clark. I'm a rapper producer. I'm from Boston.
Okay.
And I was wondering, right, especially because like the type of music you make is like in a similar lane as like a scene that I'm a part of here in Boston. And for the past 2 years, there's always been a question of like, how important is leaving the city to like further your career? And like, even though you're a part of your scene, you have all these peers that you're grinding with, you're hustling with. You could only imagine like, you're from Maryland, right?
Yeah.
And of course, it's a small market for music, right? And like, you're talking about going to LA, you probably went to New York, London, all those places to further your career. Like, how important was it for you to leave to further your career?
Man, let me tell you like this. My boy was like, yo, I put it down as my one of my New Year's resolutions. I was like, I have to go to LA this year. It was 2015. My boy was like, yo, I got this spot. I got a spot, you know, you can come here. I got a spot in transportation, just get here. My mother was alive at the time. She gave me some money to buy my plane ticket. I went to LA with $50 and a one-way ticket. And the transportation he had was a bicycle. A dead ass. He knew what he was doing too. He didn't want to say bike. He knew what you know what I mean? But it was a bike. And I went there. And I came back with my project is called Subtrap. I came back with that. And 2 videos, fully mixed and mastered project. And I promise you I never worked a day in my life since then. Like, LA was probably the most important move that I could make. Yeah. Are you going? That's it? Yeah.
So I know you've spoken about this, but you have a whole album where a lot of the songs are based off of people who you've met in jail and stuff. Can you talk a little about how those people inspired you and what it took to make that album?
Yeah. When I was in jail, it was crazy because I had a lot of people that showed me love and had respect for me, but I never had to join a gang. And for you to be like 18, 19, in that type of prison and not be in a gang is like very rare. Mainly because I was just myself. I carried myself like a man. I obviously that helps a lot. I was a lot more mature, and I asked a lot of questions and cared about everybody there. You know what I mean? Like I cared about their life, how it was outside of, jail and everything like that. So in the midst of that, I didn't know I was doing it, but I was gaining information to create Subtrap. So it just really came organically. I just was curious, I would talk to people who were heroin addicts. I had a cellmate that was a heroin addict, actually, and it was when I first got locked up, and we got transported to prison, and he was my cellmate, and he was trying to kick it. Like he was going through withdrawals, and he would like wake up in the middle of the night crying and stuff, and like not even knowing though he's sleeping, but he's crying, and a lot of different things that I realized. I was asking him all these questions like, yo, why this, why that? How do you feel right now? A lot of that. So, again, I was just getting information for something that I was going to do later, but I didn't realize it. So when I put that project together, I kind of wanted to just kind of touch back in that part of my life. You know what I mean? And some of it was current too, like a lot of the weed selling and stuff like that. That's kind of one of the things I had to kind of do to get stuff moving. And it was just like, that was that period of my life where I was doing that. So I was writing this music, but I was also tapping in to all of these other things. 'Cause I never really done any drugs, you know what I mean? So it was like, a lot of that came from people that I'd met in jail.
Hi. I just wanted to thank you so much for coming, especially as a child of West African immigrants in a creative field.
Thank you.
It's hard.
Where you from?
My mother's Nigerian and my father's Ghanaian.
Oh, that's tight. Okay.
Yeah. But basically, this is kind of a logistics question, but I remember the first time I'm listening to December, I'm like chilling, I'm vibing, and then I'm like, oh, is this Burna?
Yeah.
And then I saw that you have all of these amazing artists on your album basically co-signing you, but they don't have explicit features, at least not on Spotify. And I'm just wondering about sort of the logistics and the relationship building of having these people ride for you and not necessarily having the explicit feature. Yeah.
Let me tell you, fighting with the label on that one, oh my gosh. They were like, to the last minute, they were trying to get me to put everybody's feature on the album. I didn't want to do that because two reasons. One, I'm trying to set the precedent for like the experience that you get when you listen to an album. I'm not the first to do it by any means, but I'm just saying like I'm part of that movement of I want you to listen to the album. I don't want you to see Burna Boy and go to that song first. I don't want you to see Tyler the Creator and go to that first, or Pusha T and go to that. I want you to listen to the album, and I also want you to be surprised when you hear familiar voices. I think that experience is amazing, Like, it ruins it when you... I mean, obviously, yes, more people would listen to it. It could be bigger. That's what the argument with me and the label was at that time. But luckily, I have a situation where I make the final decision on what I want to do. So that was my decision to continue to go that way. It didn't help because it leaked on Reddit anyways. So niggas knew what it was. But shoot, the people that don't go on Reddit didn't know. So it was cool. Like, yeah.
Question here.
It's,
Right here.
oh, okay.
You mentioned spirituality being meaningful to you. What would you currently...
Say that again?
You mentioned spirituality being meaningful to you. What would you currently consider your greatest spiritual aspiration?
Greatest spiritual aspiration. I think what I'm even doing right now, I remember going to school, college. I was going to community college where I was from. And I would go to the lectures and I could not pay attention for nothing. It just wasn't working. And I used to think I was stupid. You know what I mean? I really thought that I wasn't smart enough to go to school. And music came along, and then I started doing the music thing, and I started studying and started paying a lot of attention. And then I started realizing that I am kind of smart. And then the music thing started to work, and it became what it is today. The whole time I was going through that, I was kind of like praying, like trying to figure out like what am I gonna do with the rest of my life? You know, there was times I was going through depression because I felt like I was wasting my time. You know what I mean? I was living at my mom's house. I didn't have anything. I didn't barely had any money. You know what I mean? All of this time, I'm like dealing with all of these things. And for me to be able to beat all of these odds and get to where I'm at, I know some of it has to do with my hard work, but I feel like there's something else that's telling me, like, you know what I mean? Well, my mother passed away even. She passed away, and I remember that was the last time I slept on anyone's couch. I swear to God. I was on the couch. I slept the day she passed away, and I remember having a dream, and it was like someone saying, it's okay, everything will be fine. I swear. And I woke up and I told my friend, like, that happened. And ever since that day, I started having so much success with what I was doing. You know, it's ironic that when she passed away, you know, it was like the time when I stopped having to really rely on her. You know what I mean? And that timing to me, it's too much of a coincidence. You know what I mean? So I'm just so open to something else being out there that's why, you know, I'm so in touch with spirituality. You know what I mean? I'm still figuring it out. I think religion is like, can be for some people a block. It can like kind of like confuse you, but I'll get to the religion part, but like spirituality is one thing that I think I've grasped and I understand. You know what I mean? So, yeah. Oh.
Hi. You mentioned that prison was transformative for you.
Yes.
So I'm going to follow up. How did you find community? How did you find a way to show up for people? And how did that maybe impact your mental health?
In jail?
Goals? Yeah.
There's two things that happened. One, I remember, I remember I took the GED test. I already had like a diploma and everything, but I took the GED test because I wanted to see, you know, what would happen. And I think I got like 1 or 2 problems wrong or something like that. And that's how I ended up becoming a tutor. And again, the tutoring created community because that was the most vulnerable you could ever probably see another inmate, a fellow inmate, someone who could barely, you know, read but they want it so bad and they're trying to figure it out. And all of their guards just come down and they're like looking at you to help them get this education. You know what I mean? That created a lot of community, you know? It created like a brotherhood with a lot of different people. And I remember one time I had like commissary. Commissary is like the food and stuff that you can get and order. I had commissary and I put it in my locker and I went out to the yard to work out or something and I came back and it was gone. All my stuff was gone. Somebody went in my stuff and stole it. I remember when I said that, the word got around and everybody was so mad. Like, they were like, whoever did that, come up here right now. Like, they're trying to investigate, figure out who did it and all this stuff. I remember, like, each person gave me one thing from their commissary, and I ended up having more than you know what I mean? It comes from really just being on a human level with people, not being judgmental, understanding that we are all here for a reason, you know, and understanding that we have one thing in common, and that's we're trying to get out. You know what I mean? And that kind of created that, you know what I mean? It's like, it's human nature, honestly. But a lot of the times in jail, people they feel like they need to show a side of them that probably doesn't really exist in order to survive, and it's really not that hard. You don't have to do that, you know? Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm sorry. She had a question too.
Hello.
Hello.
So my question is also about like criminal justice reform.
Yeah.
Specifically, I'm wondering, as someone who studies African American studies, I'm constantly having to look outside of what is traditionally considered the archive to find useful and oftentimes just truthful information about Black experiences. And I find that hip hop is a very useful resource about the criminal justice system and about mass incarceration. And your music, aside from, or in addition to personal narratives and just memory about prison, there's also a lot of advocacy, observations, and analysis in your music. And I guess what I'm wondering is, what exactly are you advocating for? Like, what does criminal justice reform mean to you? What does the ideal criminal justice system mean to you?
So it's crazy because you say, like, what am I advocating for, right? A lot of what I make is literally just me having my thoughts, how I feel based off of my experiences. So it was never a thing like I was necessarily advocating for. It just so happened to be my actual life, and I would write about it. You know, lately I've been kind of thinking a little bit more about what I want. And, you know, let's just say this. I'll be more specific. As it pertains to my situation, where I'm from, and people that are from where I'm from, a lot of the problem it has to do with our school systems. It's like, it's crazy. Where I'm from, I literally went from elementary school to middle school to high school and then even college, and I barely knew how to use commas. I didn't know the difference between the theirs and you are and your. I had to teach myself that. You know what I mean? There's not a lot of people that have the mindset to go out there and like learn themselves. That's why in a lot of other neighborhoods that aren't ours, there's a lot of there's a lot less of an issue with the things we go through and the future that a lot of us end up having. I think like one of the most important things that I'm trying to do is shed light to our poor education system. You know what I mean? Like that's like, it's gonna take time, but if we could fix that and fix like some of the things, the programs and that we have that are available to us, we'd have a lot more perspective. And with that perspective, we would see life differently. And I think like that would help our development, but we ain't really got a lot of shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, just to be honest, you know? So I'm advocating for better education for sure. Yeah. Now, this just happened like in the last 2 months. So you wouldn't have had an answer if it wasn't for that.
My name is Zach. I'm from Boston.
Nice.
I produce and I rap a little bit too.
Nice.
So I'm really into sampling. I
Yeah.
feel like it's such an important art because, you know, the conception of hip hop was based on, you know, people finding, you know, old records and,
Right.
you know, not being able to afford, you know, their own instruments, so they take these compositions and make it their own. And you said, you know, the industry makes it hard to sample because it's expensive. Have you ever had a song that you wanted to sample or anything like that that you weren't able to realize because of industry, you know, standards and cost?
Not cost, but one sample that I couldn't get cleared was the Spice Girls because it was on porno. And let me tell you, the first one heard that song and was like, no. I don't know which one it was, Mel C or something like that. She was like, no. And so it wasn't the money. It's just she didn't want that kind of song to be, you know. And so we had to take that part out. That's literally the only one. Most of the samples that we had, thank God, they all got cleared. And I'm happy about that. You know what I mean? I'm really happy about that. But for the most part, like, that was the one joint that was like, and it wasn't about money. And let me tell you this too. If you're like an up and coming artist and you're sampling, don't worry about it. Just do that shit. Like, don't worry about clearing that shit. I'm not gonna say nothing. I'm gonna just know, don't worry about that shit. You feel me?
I don't.
Yeah. Do you? When you get on a label, or if you get on a label, if you decide to go that route, just know, like, if the song's good, they'll pay for it. I mean, and it's not like crazy expensive most of the time. So, yeah. You had another question?
So I know you had Julia with Frank Ocean. Is
Yeah.
that ever being released? Ever? Is there any, like, even a drop of possibility that verse will be released with Frank?
It honestly,
It got cleared.
if I do anything with Frank Ocean, it would probably be new. Yeah, it's just honestly, I'm like past that point now. Like, I'm telling you, like, my new music, I don't even listen to that album no more. It's like, I don't even remember what it sounds like. Like, I listened to it recently, like, to just go through it, but you know how it is. Like, yeah. Somebody else?
What's going on? Kyle from
What's up?
Western Mass.
Okay.
So, like, in the world of, like, trying to be successful, you got to bet on yourself, you know what I'm saying? So, like, how do you know when to bet on yourself and to take opportunities, you know, not settle, but also get what you want at the same time?
How do you know when to bet on yourself? Say that.
How do you know, like, when to, like, bet on yourself and, like, instead of, like, passing up, like, you don't want to pass up an opportunity, but, like, at the same time, you want to bet on yourself and not settle?
I'm going to tell you like this. If you really want this to work, if you really are about this life, you just kind of have to give up everything. That's just what it is. You know? Like, family. Like, not give up completely, obviously, but for a period of time, you have to be so focused and so determined, because the odds that you'll ever be anything doing music, they're slim. But I knew that the whole way through, and I just kept going. It got to the point where it was like I was definitely spending way more money than I was making. I wasn't making any money. My first show was with Travis Scott and Juicy J, and I think I got like $200 for that show. I was surprised I even got paid. I was surprised I wasn't paying them to do the show, to be honest, because I've had some of those. You know what I mean? Like, so it's like, this is like probably one of the biggest gambles you'll ever have. But let me ask you, do you have kids?
No.
You're single.
Yeah.
You're single and you don't have kids? You have nothing to lose. Like, if anything, do you have your parents still?
Absolutely.
If anything happens, you can go back home and sleep at home. It's not the best, most ideal situation, but you're rolling those when you're rolling those dice, and you can fall back on at least having a place to live and food to eat, you need to go full throttle if you really believe in yourself. You know what I mean? That's just what it is. Like, seriously. Now, if you have doubt in yourself, maybe you shouldn't. You know what I mean? But you kind of just have to go for it. It's when you have kids, and this is with anything in business, it's when you start having kids and people that depend on you, and you can't let them down, that's when it kind of makes it hard to take these risks. But right now is the time you just got to go, just period, if you really believe in it.
Absolutely.
And it can't be like a plan B thing.
Yeah.
It's got to be like plan A, you know what I mean? Yeah. Yeah, go ahead. Oh.
How's it going?
Hey.
My name's Damon.
What's up?
Dealing with artist management and event planning. What would you say was your biggest shift in your career from Subtrap to Is He Real, based on your mindset and your team?
Biggest shift is my team. A lot of them are, have been here since day one, and they've developed. They've been forced to develop because the speed that I move in is like, it's like, yo, you either get with it or get left behind. Like, and it's never anything personal, you know. It's just if you respect it, you know, like I have a goal and I have plans and I want to be somewhere, and you just kind of got to get with it, keep up. You know what I mean? So a lot of my team has developed a lot of different skills that, let's just put it like this. I have a partnership with Warner Records. We're probably the most self-sufficient group of people that they've dealt with. We just do everything ourselves, sample clearance, all of that stuff. The guy who does my sample clearance, Obi, right there, he started off being my DJ. He's still my DJ too, you know what I'm saying? And throughout me growing and needing more positions to be filled, and knowing his skill sets of the type of person that he is, I started giving him more things to do. I'm like looking at what he does and how good he is at this, and this. These are his strong points. Okay, I think you'd be good at doing this too now. So when we're on tour, he's DJing with me. When we're making records, as soon as I say one bar or one interpolation from whatever song, he already knows who's the writer, blah, blah, blah. He already got it down. You know what I mean? That's the way we develop, you know, in terms of our team. In terms of me and where I went from Subtrap to Is He Real, I mean, it's almost like night and day, you know? And I think one of the biggest things that I've learned and I've developed is not to pay attention to anything anybody else is doing and compare myself with that. I compare myself to myself, and I continue to just get better. The worst thing you could do is look at Instagram and see Rich the Kid or something, or whoever other artists you might be paying attention to, and be like, yo, why does he have this, and I don't? You know what I mean? What's even worse than that is when you say, oh, he only has this because of that, da-da-da-da-da-da. If I had these things, I would be where he's at. There's so many things that you might not know about this person that is actually holding them back that you have, and that's your advantage. You spending your time comparing yourself, it's like a waste. And I used to compare myself, but I don't do that shit no more, you know what I mean? So.
Hi, sorry.
Oh, it's all good.
Thank you so much for sharing your experience. There's something that you said that really caught me, and I've been like grappling with it. When you said while you were in jail that was a really transformative experience for you, and you did mention that's not the case for other people, is what really stuck out to you was that, you know, others might have a singular perspective. And in my head, I've been thinking about it, and I'm curious whether you think that intersects with resources. So you mentioned, you know, more recently you've been thinking about education as a resource, but also you mentioned you went through depression, and finding purpose for you was really helpful as a musician, sharing your experiences and hopefully advocating for what you think is right. How do you see the experiences you had, the community that you built while you were incarcerated, intersect with resources? And besides education, what are some other resources that you think are super important?
Outside of education, and when I say education, I don't always just mean like school either. Like education could be like someone who could help you with mental health. Education could be learning from someone like myself about, like literally me saying not to pay attention to other people because this, that, and the third. You know what I'm saying? Education could come from someone who's been through situations that you've been through, and they're just basically giving you advice. I think like there just needs to be more resources in general. I don't know, let me think of an example. Like, like if you were able to have a studio in the neighborhood that, certain kids could go to if they have a certain grade or whatever, like just something that would kind of like occupy your time and also give you a chance to think outside of reality. Because I think like in order for me to have even got to where I'm at right now, I couldn't really live in reality, I had to like escape, and I did that through music, through art. I think like there's not a lot of emphasis on art in a lot of the neighborhoods that I see, you know what I mean? It's like very, go to school, get a job, you know what I mean? And for people who grow up where, why would I take all this time and do all this hard work to maybe get a job later when I could get this money right now by doing what he does, and I see him right here. Like, I'm seeing him do that, and he's gonna put me on. It's like, it's not realistic. But if you could look at somebody who's like myself, and you say like, oh, you just go in the studio, you work hard, and then this could happen. You know what I mean? Like, or I could make this painting, and it could be put in a gallery, and I could make this much money from that if I keep doing it, and I love doing this. I think like we need like more things like that. You know what I mean? For sure. Yeah.
Hi, my name's Chelsea. I wanted to know, so you think that reform should start with education in like the lesser fortunate areas. So do you think, what's your opinion on Jay-Z's and Meek Mill's and like Kim Kardashian's approaches to criminal justice reform? And do you think that that's effective, or do you think that they need to like approach educational systems?
I'll be real with you. Two things. One, I don't follow it that much, what they do. I see it here and there on social media, but for a lot of kids, especially in the hood, school is like almost a repellent. Like it's like it's like kind of like it's boring. Just being honest. A lot of this, especially the way our schools are, it's like no one wants to go to school. You know what I mean? It's about kind of, I think someone like Meek Mill, definitely, like being able to see someone like him who's accomplished what he's accomplished through art, I think for a lot of people, that's a lot more appealing. You know, I'm just being honest. Like, I'm thinking about me. I'm thinking about myself. Like, when I was a kid, you know? And it's like, there was nothing I liked about school except lunch and girls. That's like it. Nothing. If that was my mentality, and I was trying to like be successful, it almost was like there's nothing I could ever do. But if you could see that again, you can get somewhere through art, like, because that's what I've always been, an artist. I just think it's more effective to have things that are a lot more fun to do. And, you know, even people who aren't super artsy or super into rap, everybody kind of wants to see or feel what that is. You know what I mean? Because, again, it's not reality. It's like, for most people, it's not reality. It's like impossible. It's this world that you will never get to, but it's very accessible. It's just that we put it in our minds that that isn't a thing that can happen. You know what I mean? You're more likely to be a rapper than a basketball player in the NBA for sure. You know what I mean? And there's a lot of people that have that goal in mind, and they go to school and work hard in sports and are able to get to these schools because they're good at sports. I think that if we take some emphasis and put it into art, I think that's like really a big, important thing, especially for like black people, for sure. Somebody else?
What's up, man? My name's Max. I actually did one of your first interviews very early on, around when Subtrap came out.
Really?
On my website, MrWavy.com.
I forgot, bro. And to be honest, I don't know.
Long time ago.
That's crazy, though. That's what's up. Shoot.
We just happen to be in town, too. We're from Canada.
Wow.
But first and foremost, man, just, you know, since those days, I just want to congratulate you on everything. I'm so proud to see how your journey's transpired. Yeah. And I'm just wondering, kind of if you could explain a bit how you pick your partnerships creatively, how you decide to work with a company like Adult Swim or work with a label like Warner in your past couple of albums.
So remember I told y'all earlier about branding and how important that is. My particular thing is I always like to associate my brand with prestige and things that are performing at the highest level. And I don't mean performing at the highest level like monetarily, like it's not about money, it's about the art. I keep saying that. But it's like Adult Swim is actually really good at what they do. You know what I mean? There's a lot of places that make more money than them, but they're really good at what they do. I like attaching my brand to things of taste, you know? So it's a reason why I'll do probably a shoe deal with somewhere else other than somewhere else. You know what I mean? That's how I pick everything. I try to like make sure that it's never about money. It's all about the taste and whatever I'm trying to collaborate with is. Whether it's music, whether it's that's why I don't do features for money anymore, things like that. Like I you know, it's about if I really like the art and I believe in the artist, I'll just do it. You know what I mean? Yeah.
I think we have time for 2 more questions, so make them good. I see one over here and one back there.
Did you ask the question already? Cause he had his hand up for a little while too.
Yeah.
What's good, bro? My name's Dan. I'm from Boston.
Nice to meet you.
I remember like 2 years ago, the first time I came across you was on like this small like complex publication, like Pigeons and Planes.
Yeah.
Like one of your first mixtapes came out. And I just wanted to know like what your experiences and struggles were like, potentially going from like some like underground artist to like collaborating with like Denzel and like Zilla Kami, like sitting on like one of Kanye's studio sessions and stuff like that. Just like what's it like going from like this like big fish in a small pond to like this big fish in like a massive ocean for you?
It's crazy because you know, I like to show gratitude and I like to soak in the moment. And I've been doing that a lot more lately, but I still don't fully feel it. I feel the same. I feel happy. I'm happy with what I've accomplished. I'm not like, oh yeah, I need more, so I'm not like, I don't see nothing. It's not like that. It's just more like, I've reached out to a lot of artists in the DM recently, and they like respond back and send me verses, and I didn't even know they knew about me. It still shocks me every time someone DMs me and is like, yo, I fuck with you. And I'm like, but you're, you know what I'm saying? Like, I kind of just more so really just focus so much about in my world that I don't notice it too much. But I'm not gonna lie, the Kanye thing definitely fucked me up. I was definitely like, okay, I'm doing something right. Like, you know, that was cool. That was really cool. The Tyler thing too. But for the most part, I don't know. It just creeps up on you, and especially if you've been doing it for a while, it just creeps up on you, and you next thing you know, you're here, and you didn't even know. You know, I don't see what people see in me. You know, and I like that. I prefer to be that way. I don't want to ever feel like I'm bigger than what I am. You know. So.
Last question. I see one back there and one over here.
Okay. So you, and that's the last one. Okay, cool.
Hi, my name's Chimoge, and I'm actually from PG County, from Glendale. So.
Oh, that's where I'm from. That's where I live, right there.
Wait, you live in Glendale?
Okay.
Wait, you live in Glendale?
On Glendale Road, off Glendale Road.
Really?
Right there, like literally, by the Half Note Lounge and all that stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm kind of about. You know where the Texas Roadhouse is?
Oh.
All right, we'll talk later. But anyway, so obviously happy to see someone from there making it big in the rap game. But you know, one thing you notice is that certain regions kind of dominate more than others in rap and music. Like, you know, like I guess most of the mainstream artists might be more from like New York or now Atlanta and stuff like that. So do you know why that is, kind of as an insider? And do you think that's a big problem or not? Do you think that really needs to change? If so, how? Or
It's like the ecosystem. All of these places you just named have a great ecosystem for music. You know, Atlanta's like radio dominated for sure. And Atlanta's known for being the place where if you're an up and coming artist, but you're the next up, people are going to show you love and work with you and help you get there. And they help each other out that way. And they keep it coming. And their music is dominating pretty much rap right now. New York, I mean, everybody's in New York. All the publications, all the record labels. So it's like easy for you to catch some type of fire and then quickly get the attention of someone that's important. And everyone has to go through New York. LA is the same way. The record labels are there. All the creatives are in LA. And everyone passes through LA. Most people live in LA. So, you know, all of those have a lot to do with it. But, you know, then every now and then you'll get like Miami, they had their little wave. Chicago had a wave. You know what I mean? But you look and you still see the same three places. You know what I mean? They don't necessarily, it's not really been a wave. It's like they just been doing their thing for a while. You know what I mean? So I think it's based off of really the ecosystem. And that's what I want to try to create back home. I want there to be a better ecosystem for people to actually blow up, you know? But the lack of education in music business is what's holding us back the most. People will get hot, but no one has a good manager. that can walk in certain buildings and be respected and taken seriously, or that can even wake up on time for a meeting. Seriously. Like, niggas is in the hood out there, like, you know how shit is. So, I mean, that mentality isn't the greatest. And that's what I think is holding our area back, honestly. So.
All right, last two, I think, is one there and one here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Adidas?
He's coming with
you. Oh, okay.
I'm 14. My name's Aviad. I'm from Boston.
Oh, nice. Okay.
I'm part of your 1% on Spotify. Huge fan.
Okay. Clap it up for him right now.
Just having found your taste, finding what's genuine about yourself and putting it into your music. Sorry, I'm shaking right now.
Nah, it's cool, bro. It's cool. Take your time.
What would you tell your 14-year-old self, having known everything that you do right now?
I'm gonna be honest with you. You know, it's nothing I would tell myself because I wouldn't change anything. Like, everything that I've been through is why I'm able to do what I do. You know what I mean? Like, being able to, again, I always go back to this jail thing. Jail taught me patience. I wouldn't be here right now if I didn't have patience in music, because this shit is hard. You know what I mean? So it's it's just, there's nothing that I would change or tell myself, just truthfully. If I was talking to someone that's 14, you trying to do music? Kinda? Okay. Well, the first step is decide whether you do or not. You got some time though, you know what I mean? You got a good 4 years to figure it out. But when you get past that point, you know, again, focus on doing what you do that makes you happy. Don't try to do music because it's cool or you'll make a lot of money, because you'll get eaten alive. You know what I mean? The stuff you got to go through to really be in there, like joining the Illuminati, that's the first thing you got to do. You're not going to want to do that if you're not really serious about the music. You know? No, I'm just playing. But it's just a lot. It's a lot to it. You know what I mean? So that's the most important thing. Just focus on what you really love and what you really want to do. I promise you, forget about money. Forget about all of that stuff. Just what do you love? What makes you happy? All that shit. Being happy will make up for any amount of money. People think they need money to be happy. And listen, some money could make you a little bit happy. I'm not going to say, you know, it doesn't, but it's not worth not being happy for. You know what I mean? So that's probably the main thing I'll tell you. Yeah.
I think we have one more to squeeze in.
One more.
You want to just yell it out? Oh, never mind. Wait.
He's coming.
Hi, my name's Cynthia, and I wanted to know if you wanted to go to Chuck E. Cheese afterwards.
Chuck E. Cheese, where is it? Is it around here? Okay, listen, this is the only thing. I want to go to Chuck E. Cheese because I want the pizza. Here's the problem. The way my diet is set up, I ate pizza already. You know what I'm saying? Today, I have to they got salads there? All right, we can find out.
Everyone just give it up for IDK. Thank you so much.
Thank you, bro. Thank you guys so much.